We have a culture where the difference is guns can be used for hunting or for sport shooting in Canada, and there's lots of gun owners, and they're mostly law-respecting and law-abiding. But you can't use a gun for self-protection in Canada. That's not a right that you have in the Constitution or anywhere else. If you try and buy a gun and say it's for self-protection, no, you don't get that. You get it for hunting. You can get it for sport shooting. You can take it to the range, no problem, as long as you go through our rigorous background checks. But there's a difference around the culture. And one of the things that we're seeing with the debate in the States is you get more and more of the American style, right to carry, self-defense arguments filtering up through the usual more right-wing communications channels.
Hi there, everyone. This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth with breaking news. The Supreme Court of the United States has just ruled in favor of Second Amendment rights in the United States by overturning a centuries-old New York state law that essentially makes it very difficult for people to be able to carry a firearm outside of their homes for the purposes of self-defense and protection. This is absolutely groundbreaking, huge news. Here it is, decided upon today, June 23rd, 2022. Now, as you can tell by the title of this video, guys, and by the little intro clip that you saw there of Justin Trudeau, that was him, Prime Minister of the country, the horse's mouth, if you will, saying that Canadians do not have any kind of a right to own a firearm for the purposes of self-defense. Now, there are a lot of people out there who think that the Prime Minister is technically incorrect, but in today's video, I'm going to show you 3 separate cases that would prove that he is not incorrect, and indeed, Canadians do not have any kind of a right to own a firearm for the purposes of self-defense, and it's absolutely insane that that is the case, guys. So we're going to talk about all of that and much more in this video, but just before we do, I'd ask that you quickly check me out at pressfortruth.ca/donate. Here you can do PayPal, you can do Bitcoin, you can do other cryptocurrencies, you can sign up for a monthly reoccurring contribution at Subscribestar, or you can do it right here as well. You can do an e-transfer, or you can send stuff to my P.O. box, guys. The links are all for this located in the description below. Thank you so much to anybody who does contribute to my efforts to bring you this information. All right, guys, so we're gonna take a quick look at this before we delve into these 3 cases that prove that Canadians are not allowed to defend themselves with firearms. But as we see here, Supreme Court overturns New York law on carrying concealed weapons. The Supreme Court has struck down New York's century-old law restricting the carrying of concealed firearms, its first major Second Amendment decision in more than a decade, and a ruling that could lead to more guns on the streets. Writing for the 6-3 majority, Justice Clarence Thomas said on Thursday that the law's requirement of New Yorkers who want a permit to carry a handgun in public has to show proper cause that the weapon is specifically needed for self-defense. Well, that violates the 14th Amendment by preventing law-abiding citizens with ordinary self-defense needs from exercising their right to keep and bear arms. And that just seems like a no-brainer to me. I mean, it's clearly a violation of the Second Amendment and the 14th, and I'm kind of surprised it was even a law to begin with in the first place. You know, it's about time the Supreme Court of the justices there overturned this insane law, especially in this time where we're seeing an increase in school shootings and much more of a need for guns to be in the hands of law-abiding citizens, because as we know, laws don't stop criminals from obtaining firearms. Criminals are going to continuously be able to get their hands on guns, and some sort of new law blocking other citizens from being able to do so is not going to help the situation whatsoever. And the justices even point out here in this article, it says that properly interpreted, the Second Amendment allows a variety of gun regulations, wrote Roberts and Kavanaugh, who also noted that states can still make applicants for a firearm license, you know, undergo fingerprinting, a background check, a mental health records check, and training in firearms handling in laws regarding the use of force, among other possible requirements. So as he says, look, in order to do this, you still have to get a license, and you still have to go through rigorous background checks in order to do so. And that is indeed the case. So it's going to be very interesting to see the majority of Americans' reactions to this. President Biden has already put out a statement. He just recently said he's deeply disappointed in SCOTUS ruling on open carry, as we see here from Zero Hedge, an hour after the U.S. Supreme Court struck down a New York state law requiring people to show a special need, like a business owner who's handling cash, to carry a handgun outside the home in public. The White House released a statement from President Biden saying he was deeply disappointed with the ruling that contradicts both common sense and the Constitution and should deeply trouble us all. He says, "I'm deeply disappointed by the Supreme Court's ruling in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin. Since 1911, the state of New York has required individuals who would like to carry a concealed weapon in public to show a need to do so for the purpose of self-defense and to acquire a license. More than a century later, the United States Supreme Court has chosen to strike down New York's long-established authority to protect its citizens. This ruling contradicts both common sense and the Constitution and should deeply trouble us all. In the wake of horrific attacks in Buffalo and Uvalde, as well as the daily acts of gun violence that do not make national headlines, we must do more as a society, not less, to protect our fellow Americans." Well, some would argue that's exactly what the SCOTUS is doing, is giving the Americans more so the ability to be able to protect themselves. Because as we've seen in Texas, they can't count on the police. And let's face it, if you're in favor of gun control, what that really means is you're just in favor of the guns being in the hands of the government and not the people's. Because who's going to confiscate the guns? You're going to need some, cops and military men with guns to be able to take away people's guns. And as I said, these guys can't be trusted anyways. They allowed that shooter in Texas to slaughter those kids for over an hour. And now they want to take away your ability to even be able to defend yourself. It's just absolutely insane. And as I said, Canada's situation is very, very different from those in the US. And a lot of people are not aware of the fact that here in Canada, you're essentially allowed to have a gun for hunting and for sports shooting, and that's about it. And as Justin Trudeau said in that opening clip, Canadians do not have a right to own a firearm for the purposes of self-defense. Now, I think it was about 5 years ago or so, I was going over all of this information about whether or not Canadians can have a firearm for the purposes of self-defense or not. And in my research, I found 3 different cases. So I just want to point you back to that video that I made about 5 years ago that proves, because of the outcome of these 3 cases, that absolutely Canadians do not have any kind of rights to have a firearm for the purposes of self-defense. So again, I threw this together about 5 years ago. It's amazing what can happen in 5 years. I don't think I have a single gray hair in this video, but anyways, time goes on, people age, that's what happens. But yeah, it was a good little video where I compiled this list of cases that prove that Canadians have no rights to a firearm for self-defense. Check it out. Alright, I think it's safe to say that it is an undisputable fact that Canadians have absolutely zero rights when it comes to self-defense. If you don't believe me, just look at a recent case of a man from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Kyle Earl Monroe. On July 12th, 3 men entered a residence with guns drawn where a struggle ensued with 2 men who were inside the home. The 2 men were able to fend off the home invaders while managing to take away one of their guns. Shots were fired, causing the suspects to flee, and one of the suspects ended up getting hit, causing non-life-threatening injuries. So how did the police respond to this brave and courageous act of defending one's home from an invasion from intruders? Well, the RCMP and the Halifax Regional Police responded to the incident by arresting the man who fended off the home invaders, Kyle Monroe, and they charged him with, are you ready for this? attempted murder, intent to discharge a firearm, intent to discharge a firearm while being reckless, careless use of a firearm, improper storage of a firearm, pointing a firearm, possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose, unauthorized possession of a firearm knowing possession is unauthorized, and possession for the purpose of trafficking. I mean, what the hell is going on here? For the simple act of defending himself, Kyle Monroe can now face serious jail time. And on top of that, until he has his say in court on August 22nd, he has to abide by the following rules. He cannot leave his house except for medical reasons or for work. He can no longer have a cell phone or pager. He can't consume drugs or alcohol. He's not allowed to leave Nova Scotia. He must keep the peace and be of good behavior. And he must answer the door when police check his home. How unbelievably twisted, backwards, upside down, whatever you want to call it, can our government possibly get? And the truth is, this isn't even an isolated incident. Ian Thompson, an Ontario man, went through a similar ordeal a few years ago. Thompson woke up to 4 men throwing Molotov cocktails at his home, and considering that he lived a long way away from the police, not to mention the fact that he was a former firearms instructor, he fired warning shots at his assailants, causing them to flee, and then he put out the fire that could have burned down his home, and then he called the police. Thompson was then charged, and he faced more jail time than his attackers. Or the case of Michael Woodward, a man who defended his New Brunswick home from an armed invasion, and he was charged for shooting one of his attackers. The bottom line is, guys, Canadians are incrementally losing their rights under Justin Trudeau, especially when it comes to gun laws. We warned Canadians about this years ago during a live broadcast where I interviewed in studio Rod Giltaca, the president of the Canadian Coalition for Firearms Rights. He's a well-known figure in the firearms community in Canada, not to mention he's a certified instructor for the RCMP Canadian Firearms Program. And we delved deep into everything that Trudeau had in store for Canadians in terms of our gun laws, and it's all now coming to fruition. So I strongly recommend that you check out this interview. I'll include a link to it at the end of this video. And I will also include a link to that video with Rod Giltaca in the description of this video. But there you have it. I mean, 3 different separate cases of these guys you know, attempting to use their firearms for the purposes of self-defense, and you know, the court striking them down and them losing. So there you have it. I mean, there are people who are saying the Prime Minister is technically incorrect and that you can do this, but as I've just shown you, you can't, and that is absolutely insane to me. As I said, we're going to see how the American people feel about this. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people getting very vocal about this over the next few days, but in Canada, the debate is going to continue. And not long ago, me and my friend Josh Sigurdsson went around on the streets of Vancouver interviewing people, asking them about their views on Canadian gun rights versus the rights of Americans, and we put together a pretty good little interesting video, just getting the general thoughts of the people of Vancouver on how they feel about gun rights in Canada and where that's heading. So check that out. I'll put a link to that in the description as well, guys. But anyways, that's all for today. Just wanted to bring that breaking news to your attention. Chalk one up for the good guys again today. This is good news. I'm happy for the American people to have gotten such good news today. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention as well. That's all for today, guys. I want to thank you once again for continuing to support my efforts here at Press for Truth. Don't forget to click that thumbs up button. Share this video with your friends and family who you think need to see it the most. Don't forget to check the links in the description to where you can find me at pressfortruth.ca/donate. And that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned. We're going to have more video reports coming soon. This is Dan Dix reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.